Yeah. Maybe not. Let's take a look at that quick. So legitimately, this is something I am thinking about doing. I've got this marked out here, and what that is for would basically be a little notch that would allow me to have a splitter. I know it's not factory, obviously, because it's not there. I know that it's a permanent modification to the table. The other one I actually already did. So that one's already got a notch in it, and then I kind of beveled this out as well. That one, smartly, I did before I painted it. The other one I haven't yet. I don't know why. Mistakes were made. Actually, I wasn't sure if I was going to do this to the second table or if I was going to leave it, but the more I think about it, I think I'm going to do it. I think. Should I do it? I guess the thing is, I'm doing all this to use the saws, and this isn't what I do for a living. And even if it was what I did for a living, I'd still want my fingers for a living. So, the saw originally had a weird blade guard splitter assembly that, I mean, even if I could find, it sort of attaches to the back of the saw and then sticks forward the whole distance of that. And I'm just not convinced that that would work out that great. I mean, the forks on the back of the castings break. I've seen probably more saws with this broken than I have not. So to me, that kind of indicates that it's probably not the best way to deal with a splitter. I plan on taking the shark guard off of my 1180B and retrofitting it onto at least the one that I'm using for the most part. I just think that this will be more usable. And I know it's a modification. I know that that's not always going to be the most popular thing, but at the end of the day, I got to do what I got to do to feel safe, or I'm just not going to use it. And if I'm not going to use it, I might as well get rid of it now. If I were to get rid of it now, I might as well not bought them in the first place. And that's just silly talk. So yeah, I think we're going to do it. Well, I don't know how I feel about it, but it did it. Well, good, bad, or otherwise, it's done. I really hope I made the right decision. All right, so now we're gonna have to move on to probably flipping it over, getting some of the rest of it assembled. So getting the trunnions in place, getting the main casting in place, because there's a bracket that I had made. I designed it up and then had it made at Sen Cut Sen, which is not sponsored or anything, but it's just a pretty simple bracket. So it's just this rectangle. The two holes that are spaced out further are for 3/8 inch clearance bolts. Top two are, I don't remember if they're 3/8, they're fine thread, whatever they are. And so they're just the right size for the splitters and stuff for the shark guard. That's what I'll be doing, and I think that'll be the next thing that I tackle. I've got things mocked up a little bit. I've got the undercastings, all that stuff is all set up and hooked up and got it all installed on. This is actually the other saw base. I haven't put the other one together. All those parts are still scattered over here, so haven't put that back together. Haven't missed that yet. And just trying to get a little bit of a mock-up for what this is going to look like. So essentially that bracket is in now. Everything will be able to go up about 1/2 inch further. We'll take a peek underneath the table here quick in a sec just to show you that. But basically this is what it'll look like. Here's the issue. I thought I was done with cutting up the table, but I forgot that I actually needed to take out a chunk of this, because you can kind of see that bracket is going to interfere with it, and then this actually slides up about maybe 1/2 inch or so. So nothing terrible, but it does mean that everything has to come off. So here you can kind of get a little bit better idea of what it looks like underneath. It's just basically got that cutout that I beveled in there, and that'll allow everything to be able to swing over for its angles. I just need to notch out, like I said, and that should be good to go. And then that bracket will be flush with the bottom, and then I will mark and drill some holes to bolt that thing on there. Here we've got that notch out of the table in the bottom there. You can see how that works with that bracket. I've got the trunnions and the main casting obviously put back on it. I don't really need to mount it back in the cabinet just because I know that the motor and all that's going to be happy. So now it's just a matter of getting that splitter situated. So we'll give this a shot and see if it'll actually lean over far enough. So who's up for some more irreversible damage? All right, I got everything all finished up down here, and now I've marked this out and I center punched those two holes. So I'm going to drill a pair of 3/8 holes there, and that will obviously be for our bracket to go on there, and then we can get this thing bolted on. We've got our holes drilled and chamfered. So I've just got a pair of 3/8 inch bolts and some washers and a lock nut. And these will just go on here. And now with this bracket bolted in place, we can try out one of our splitters. So we'll set that to 0. So we know when we hit 90, 90. We know that this is now considered 90 to the table. I don't know if I'll actually be able to go for 45 because that'll probably hit the table, but we'll see what happens. Oh yeah, there's 46. So we can hit about 47. And it does look like that limitation is from it running into the casting there. So if I wanted to bevel that a little bit further and pull this back just a hair, I would be able to get extra capacity out of the tilt, but I don't think I need to. So we already saw that I can get past 45, and I don't really know any situation where I'd be cutting something greater than 45 anyway. So I think I'm going to call that good. That wraps up the table modifications. I think that might do it for this one. I don't really think there's a whole lot else I want to do about this because I'm basically just going to tear it apart, and then I think my original plan was I was going to try to bring things like the trunnions, maybe some of the other small castings, this main casting, and try to get those sandblasted. It's at least the main swinging casting I'll probably try to get sandblasted just because there's so many nooks and crannies and stuff that it's such a pain. I wouldn't be able to clean it very well, and I'd be afraid that the paint wouldn't adhere if I can't clean it well enough. So I don't know how long that'll take, but that'll probably be for the second saw anyway, because the casting with the intact forks I was planning on putting on the second saw, and then I would be using the other one that's already painted for this main saw. So that's the plan. I think the next steps will be to order a bunch of hardware because I wanted to get some new bolts and nuts and bolts and stuff like that, especially a lot of the ones for mounting the motor and the motor bracket and all that. They're starting to get some threads that are starting to be pretty damaged. So some of them I'll be able to save, like the trunnion bolts, those will be fine, but motor mounts and the actual bolts that hold the motor to the motor mount, I'll probably end up getting new ones along with a handful of other stuff. I need to get some stuff for the brackets. So that will get on order, and I think the next thing I will do is work on getting the cabinet back together, and we can start actually getting some of this stuff put together. So with that, I appreciate those of you that stuck around and watched all of this, and be sure to subscribe so you can catch the next update on the table saw projects, and I will catch you in the next one.